the EMEET SmartCam S800 and the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. Both of these webcams have half-inch sensors, meaning their image quality is getting close to mirrorless cameras like the one I'm using right now. But the question is, which webcam will take the throne? Will it be the EMEET SmartCam S800 or the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite? Let's find out in this webcam duel. Note to the editor, please add some cool reverb effects in post to make this super legit. Thanks. These webcams will duke it out through 10 rounds of mic testing action. I said mic. Should be webcam. These webcams will duke it out through 10 rounds of webcam testing action. The webcam with more points wins. And the one that loses will find a new home. With my mother. Probably not. Sorry, Mom. Let the unboxing begin. Ooh. Stay pro, stay productive. Love that. That really is tiny. Huh. I adore this form factor. Let's take this out. Tiny 2 Lite weighs 79 grams. That is very light. Huh. Ooh, so this is a Type-C to Type-C USB cable with a Type-C to Type-A adapter. So it's very small and handy and comes with a 1/4 inch thread. And this flap is very sturdy. Hinge is super solid. See, it won't even budge. Quick disclaimer, EMEET did send me the EMEET SmartCam S800 for a separate video, and Obsbot did send me the Tiny 2 Lite for this comparison video, but everything I say in this video are my thoughts only. May the best webcam win! Round 1. Weight. Weight is important because you don't want to put a heavy webcam on a laptop. The EMEET SmartCam S800 weighs 183.4 grams, whereas the Obsbot weighs 93.6 grams, about half the EMEET. The winner of this round is the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. Round 2. Build quality. Both of them appear to be all plastic builds. The EMEET, though, seems to at least have these passive cooling vents, and it is just chunkier overall. This is a magnet, doesn't seem to be attaching to the back, so this is probably still plastic. The hinge for the bottom of the Obsbot, though, is very tight. Like, you know it is going to stay no matter what you do. Now, camera sensors are generally heat sensitive. You don't want them to overheat. So because the ventilation protects the EMEET more, in theory, I'm gonna give this round to the EMEET. Round 3. Image quality. So to the left, we got the EMEET SmartCam S800. To the right, we got the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. And this is how they both look straight out of camera without any effects. Now, the EMEET is horizontal, but everything else stays the same. So for image quality, we're just talking about dynamic range and sharpness. In terms of sharpness, both of these webcams capture everything in glorious detail. Take a look at the signs of aging on my forehead. Even the texture on my shirt. Both of these webcams are very sharp. Now for dynamic range, take a look at this section of my studio with the light. An average webcam would have these be blown out and it would just be a white blob. But both of these webcams are able to capture all of the colors, even in the highlights. Now for the shadows, let me turn off the light. And over here to the side of my chin, most webcams would have this part become very grainy, but you can see that it retains color on both webcams. Oh, there's a change in dynamic range after I turned off my studio light. Now you can see a bit more of that white blob thing I was talking about here on the Obsbot and here on the EMEET. It still seems to me that they're capturing the same amount of dynamic range. So in terms of objective image quality, this round is a draw. Round 4, bokeh or background blur. So with a standard talking head half body position, there is a tiny amount of bokeh on both. Not enough to drown out a cluttered background, but just enough to show that you have a quality camera. Now I could be mistaken, but it might be that the S800 has a slight edge. Could be placebo, maybe a 1-2% difference, but to me it is negligible. We're talking about the same sensors after all. Now, if I put a small object in front of them, both of them are able to blur that background into oblivion. So again, in terms of natural bokeh, they are even. However, since the Obsbot at least has the option for software-based background blur, even though I personally wouldn't use it, we are giving the bokeh round to the Obsbot. Round 5. Chromatic aberration. Not a test you typically include in a webcam comparison. If you zoom into my Earthworks Ethos microphone, on the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite, you can see that there's a strange purple outline around the holes of this microphone. And that is traditionally seen as a lens flaw, but it's the only noticeable optical difference between these two webcams straight at a camera. This round goes to the EMEET SmartCam S800. Round 6, low light. Let's turn off my studio light. Yep, quality seems the same to me. Let's turn off one more light. Same quality. That's another light turned off. Same quality. And this is how they both look with just my monitor on. For the low light test, it's a draw. Round 7, tracking. I mean, come on. The EMEET doesn't even have tracking, not even software-based. But at present, they don't even have auto reframing. So tracking goes to the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. Round 8. Autofocus. So this is one of the few rounds where I think there is a clear winner. The EMEET's autofocus isn't horrible, but you can tell that it takes a moment, a visible beat, before the EMEET locks onto the object. And it might also pulse forward ever so slightly before fully locking on. Whereas with the Obsbot, the autofocus is fast. It may also pulse forward ever so slightly, but more often than not, it locks on really quickly. Autofocus goes to the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite. Okay, I'm now recording in 720p because there's a lot of lag. Round 9, price to performance. Note that this round is price to performance and not just the lowest price. And relative to their price, both of these webcams are very good. I've seen the EMEET go for as low as $102 and maximum $149. Whereas the Obsbot is usually $179, but I've seen it go for as low as $149. So at its lowest price, the Obsbot can be the same price as the EMEET at its highest price. And remember, the Obsbot comes with a gimbal and more advanced software. You might think, well, I want to save $40 and I think the image quality on the EMEET is fine on its own. I don't need all that extra fluff. If that's how you think, grab the EMEET, if you can catch it on a sale. Or you might think, wow, the Obsbot is just $30 more than the EMEET and it already has gimbal and better software. Count me in. That's also a valid reason to get the Obsbot. So this round is a draw. Round 10, software. Now this round is interesting. You're gonna see that I have 3 cameras on. The one to the bottom right is actually the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite using the Obsbot Center software. And for some reason, I don't know why, but using the Obsbot with their software causes lag. A lot of lag, as you can see. This is why I've been using the Obsbot with Google Meet this whole time. This is what you get when you just select the Tiny 2 Lite as your webcam on a video conference. But if you try to create a virtual camera, it becomes laggy like the bottom right. Let me demonstrate that. I'm on Google Meet, then I'm going to select a webcam. As you can see, I've chosen the Tiny 2 Lite stream camera. Now I'm going to select Obsbot virtual camera. And what happens here is that I now have to turn on this camera on the software. And as you can see, it is working with the effects, but it is stuttery. It's kind of a shame because the Obsbot software has all these beautiful filters. Look at that. That is very cinematic, especially if we turn off the background blur. Like this here is very Fujifilm. I am digging this look. Unfortunately, it's very stuttery. Could be my MacBook Air just having 8 gigabytes of RAM, but this is not even in 4K, this is just in 1080p. But the moment that we switch back to the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite stream camera, bam, goodbye stuttering. Now, on the other hand, the EMEET software is very basic. You got this zoom over here. You got anti-flicker. It doesn't even have an auto setting. You have various settings. These are all standard, but you don't get beauty filters. You don't get background blur. You don't get retouch. And every time you reboot the EMEET software, you have to choose your settings again. Also, unlike the Obsbot software, which at least lets you choose your resolution, the EMEET software does not have that. They do continue to say that they're working on it, but even then, EMEET software would be behind Obsbot's. I do have to say, though, that as basic as the EMEET software is, it's been pretty reliable. Now, for the Obsbot software, it was working fine when I was using it with the Obsbot Tail Air. So maybe they just haven't optimized it that much for the Tiny 2 Lite, or, you know, my MacBook isn't powerful enough. All those factors considered, this round is a draw. Bonus round, round 11, microphones. Just in case you were wondering. So you're hearing the audio on the EMEET SmartCam S800 at this distance. It does get fuller as you get close, but then the framing becomes horrible, so you do want to step back. I'd say this is about as close as I'd want to go. And this is how the EMEET sounds with the microphone noise reduction. Let's turn that off. And this is how the EMEET sounds with microphone noise reduction turned off. Now this is how the Obsbot Tiny 2 Lite sounds with these various settings using the Obsbot Center app, so that is something the app is good at. Let me set the noise reduction to weak, and this is how that sounds. Noise reduction is weak. Noise reduction is medium. Noise reduction is strong. Radio distance set to standard. Radio distance set to close. Radio distance set to far, and that is how the Tiny 2 Lite sounds. Honestly, I'm not a fan of either, but if I had to choose one, I would go with the EMEET S800 just because it's slightly fuller when you are up close. But even then, I wouldn't use it. There's a chance that your built-in mic might sound better. Like, this here is how the MacBook Air microphone sounds straight out of laptop. If you're leaning in closely into my ear, this sounds better than both of the webcam's mics. So because the results of this test don't really matter, I consider this round a draw. By the way, I want to thank these incredible people. Thank you. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, make sure to hit subscribe down below. I'll see you in this video.